Mr. Chairman.
Keep them informed of what we hear.
Lisa, it'll keep us. Help.
Yeah.
I'd like to call this meeting of the December 5th Technical Advisory Committee meeting at 10:04. Welcome to TAC. Members are reminded that these meetings are in person for quorum requirements. Members attending online may not vote, but may comment and participate in the discussion. To participate virtually, use the raised hand feature. So then we'll move on to chair's announcements. There are 2 public comment points in this meeting. Any speakers in person are welcome to fill out a comment card by the door and give those to Rachel in order to speak. And then I will turn it over to Slade for agenda review.
Right, thank you, Chair. Good morning again, everyone. No changes to the agenda today, but wanted to start off with some housekeeping items. The Metro Plan Orlando office will be closed on December 25th, January 1st, and January 19th for Christmas, New Year's, and MLK Day, respectively. Our regional partnerships team has every year they send out membership confirmation letters, and it is that time of year again. So long story short, we'll be sending letters to your city and county management just to confirm your organization's membership on TAC and TISMO, as well as title and contact information. Doesn't impact anyone's membership status. It's just record keeping for us internally. So if anyone in your management, asks what's this, it's just for our record keeping. One last housekeeping item. So every time a new TAC primary or alternate member is appointed, I like to do a 20-25 minute virtual orientation for new members. If you either have not received one, or your alternate hasn't received one, or you would just like a refresher, let me know. Just wanted to put that out there in case anyone is in need of one. Also, one last announcement. We talked about this a little bit at TISMO, but expand on it a little more. Metro Plan Orlando will be renewing our contract with Urban SDK in March of next year. For those who are not familiar, the Urban SDK platform provides speed, traffic volumes, and reliability data on all of our functionally classified roadways in the region. In addition to providing access to these metrics, the Urban SDK platform also helps users visualize and identify traffic and safety issues in a timely manner. Laura Bauk asked me to share all of this with you, not just as free advertising for them, but because Metro Plan Orlando has kind of a limited number of seats on our contract that we offer to our local partners to give them access to the platform. For those of you that already utilize one of those seats, Laura will be in touch separately to confirm if you wish to maintain that access. And for the rest of you that may be interested in gaining access to the platform, you can talk to Laura after this meeting or follow up via email. We'll send out an email following the meeting, but Laura's contact info will be in there if you want to ask her any questions, if you think of anything, but also I'm pretty sure she is in the room. Yes, if anyone has any questions right now, we can ask her to come up to the podium. So if anyone has any questions about that.
I have one question. Because I'm one of the people that had one of those seats, and I've been working with them and with you all. I haven't heard back really since my question about the local roads issue, where we were finding that the probe data was different between DOT, Seminole County, and urban, where it was drastically different, where for one local road, the county may have had 5,000, DOT had 6,000, and urban had 3,500. So it was a significant difference, but the county and state were much closer.
Right.
On the larger roads, we saw that they were more true, but it's probably because there's less data out there. I just didn't know if there was any further.
That's something I spoke with him after we spoke a few
Mhm.
months back, said that they were working on. I have another meeting with Zach next Friday, so I'll follow up. Have you checked on that?
I haven't
recently?
heard from
Okay.
Zach, and I haven't checked on it yet.
Okay. I'll follow up with you too on which specific roadways. I think you put it in the email, but I'll take a look myself and then I'll talk with him next week and follow up. Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Also, yeah, I talked to him Zach yesterday. And we've been doing it ourselves, and I guess kind of piggybacking Seminoles. So I wasn't sure how that worked because we get a discounted price because Seminole had it. I don't know if Seminole and the other folks that have been subscribing are now coming in under the
Well, so
Metro
Seminole
plan.
had their own contract and so didn't join
Okay.
the seat. I'll check with Charlie because I think
Yeah.
Seminole does some additional things that are not available through our license,
Okay.
but they would have the availability
Okay.
to join. So
So,
I'll
but
circle back with
Your
Charlie.
license
Maybe.
does cover the local streets. So,
Yes,
okay.
the functioning
And I
class.
know they also were talking about starting some AI type stuff on it. And then they're also going to add RCI data.
RCI data's in
So
there.
that's the data DOT traditionally had. And it sounds the exact same kind of data. I don't know with their contracts with DOT, is that why they're adding it or what? But it'll have lanes, all the other
Right.
traditional RCI data in there. So it's just something interesting. But we need to piggyback
You and
on
I,
yours
okay.
just
All right.
because the cost for us is a little high for Longwood. So
Okay, noted. So I'll follow up with you.
yes,
Okay,
thank you.
thanks, Chad.
Any other questions? No?
Okay, that concludes my announcements, and I can give it over to Mike for the safety moment.
Thank you, Slade, and good morning, everyone. Our safety moment this time around, historically, we've been doing the safer people slice of that pie up there, but today we're going to talk about safer roads and a new type of roundabout. If you've got any experience with roundabouts, when you have 2 lanes or more, you run into some challenges that make things confusing for people. Sometimes people do lane changes within the circle, and that can surprise users who are entering the circle from the side street. And then also conflicts at the exits where 2 parties are on converging paths as to one going straight, one going right. And so about 30 years ago, the Dutch came up with a solution for this, and they call it the turbo roundabout. It's not because cars go faster, it's because the spiral shape of the intersection. And the very first one in the United States was actually installed in Jacksonville at their intersection of University and Merrill. And so what's interesting about and how it works is that you have the key thing is raised lane separators so that you cannot change lanes without hopping a concrete curb within the circle. And then the way it works is that you just ensure that you're in the correct lane at your entry. So if you're going right or straight, you use the right-hand lane. If you're going straight or left, you use the left-hand lane. And here you can see it in action from the top of my bicycle helmet. It gives you a nice unobstructed view. So you can see the pavement markings there, giving clear indication as to which lane you should be in, depending on your destination. And of course, you yield when you get up to the circle. And from this approach, you've got 2 lanes that you have to deal with. And so you have to make sure that both of those are clear before entering. And there's my gap. So I go immediately into the inside lane, but then very quickly it becomes the outside lane. And so that sets me up for a conflict-free circuit around the circle there, and out we go. I found it, it's just very easy to navigate. I ran it from all directions, and there's also, I didn't mention previously, there are rapid flashing beacons at all legs for the pedestrians. For this particular intersection, this was installed in 2021. There haven't been any serious or fatal crashes since then. There were actually no prior to that either. There have been a couple of crashes that involved drivers who had medical episodes, but of course that could happen anywhere. But there has been an overall increase in total crashes, not unusual with roundabouts, particularly a 2-lane roundabout. But of course, the key thing when we're talking about Vision Zero is that we can accept an increase in property damage if we can reduce those serious crashes. A couple interesting questions that we've had about this. One was asking if there are any 3-lane turbos, and I was actually looking that up this morning. And actually, Hollister, California, just did one last year, and they had a big increase in crashes, but there have been no serious crashes there. And then Chad had a good question earlier this morning about how do these compare with regular roundabouts? And that same article about Hollister mentioned that in the Netherlands, they found a 70% decrease in crashes for turbos compared to regular multi-lane roundabouts. So that concludes my safety moment. Be happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Mike. Any questions?
Hey, Mike, question, is there any data that shows that with this design that has decreased the speed in the roundabouts?
I haven't seen anything data-wise, but if you watch the video, you notice, okay, I'm on a bicycle. That car ahead of me is not going a whole lot faster than I was, right? And that's typical of a good roundabout design is going to keep motorist speeds at bicyclist speeds. You do get a little bit of extra speed on the outside lane because the radius is wider than compared to the inside lane, but certainly less than somebody blowing through on a regular green light, right, on a regular traffic signal.
I noticed we have roundabout right outside my office window, and I've noticed that when they go through it, it's almost like a slingshot. Like as soon as they go out of it, they fly out and just go fast.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that the rapid flashers at the pedestrian crosswalk kind of helps, if that's flashing and, right before they go to the straight shot.
Yeah, I was able to also walk the crosswalks there, and got good compliance with the beacons.
Okay.
Yeah, Mike, in the drawing there are some dashed lines where the different legs are coming in. What precludes somebody in the inner lane to make a right there?
Yeah, it's interesting that technically you should not be able to do that, and perhaps those should be solid lines rather than dashed, because I don't think you really want someone making that movement.
Any other questions? Yes.
Can you expand more on the increase in the total crashes, the crash types?
Oh, right. Well, most of them, I did look at a number of the crashes were the southern approach, northbound, and vehicles coming around the circle, so that who are coming from the left. and drivers not yielding to them. So they're assuming that that car was going to exit the circle when it actually stayed in the circle. And our resident roundabout user expert from England has told me that is, the dominant type of crash that you would see at roundabouts.
Any other questions? I don't see any. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Next, we'll move on to agency reports. This is an opportunity for partner agencies to speak to TAC. If any partners want to speak here, let Rachel or Slade know. Jonathan Scarf with FDOT will give us his report.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, TSC members. Just follow up on Mike's presentation. We currently don't have any turbos in District 5, and I looked into it yesterday, and we don't have any currently planned, but they are included in the ICE evaluation when we look at intersections. So they are on the table in the future. This morning, I'll be brief. I just have a couple of updates from your construction report. First, I'll cover an upcoming project here at US 441 at Clarkonia Road. The project description is there that you're going to have, or the purpose is to reconstruct and upgrade the existing traffic signal at the intersection of Orange Blossom Trail and Clarkona Road. That'll include new signal poles, new signal heads with advanced visibility for drivers and new pedestrian signals. Additionally, an extension of the eastbound right turn lane on Clarkona Road will be included, and that is going to begin in January, estimated completion 2026. And then we just recently completed State Road 434 from Centurus Boulevard to McCullough Road. That was a resurfacing project, extending the life of the roadway. Fairly straightforward resurfacing. Just some safety reminders from the safety office. December is National Impaired Driver Prevention Month. Drive sober, plan ahead, make sure your family does as well. And then January is Florida Highway Patrol Move Over Florida Month. Just a reminder that it's not just law enforcement vehicles, it's disabled vehicles, tow trucks, anything that's on the side. If you can't get over, please reduce your speed by 20 miles per hour. And then your points of contact, myself, and anytime you have department-related questions, please feel free to reach out. And some of your resources, CFL Roads, 5-4 Beyond, and the District 5 Safety Office website. Pending questions, that concludes my brief.
Any questions for Jonathan? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we will move on to roll call.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If members can please remember to turn their microphone on before responding with here or present, and then mute once you have responded. Barden.
Here.
Boswell.
Here.
Brock.
Here.
Castellero.
Present.
Castro.
Here.
Cologne.
Here.
Cornelison. Coulon. Lagichetti for Crandell.
Here.
Delachey.
Here.
Ide.
Present.
Falk.
Here.
Hardwick.
Here.
Jimenez. Look. Thank you. Lofaso.
Here.
Mendenhall. Cox for Nelson.
Here.
O'Keefe.
Here.
Owens.
Yes, ma'am.
Perez.
Here.
Price.
Here.
Pullum.
Here.
Ramdat.
Here.
Recce. Rabon Farol.
Here.
Sanders. Senerans.
Here.
Smith.
Present.
Story.
Here.
Stoltz.
Here.
Wharton.
Here.
Whitfield.
Here.
Yeargain.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes the roll call. We do have a quorum.
Thank you. So we'll move on to common presentations. We have one common presentation. This presentation is intended for the combined membership of TAC and TSMO and presented at the beginning of this meeting for that purpose. Members with questions can stand their nameplate on end. Please remember to turn on your mic. Emily Bush from Bike Walk Central Florida with Best Foot Forward Annual Report. Hey, Emily.
Hello, good morning, everyone. My name is Emily Bush. I'm the Executive Director of Bike Walk Central Florida, and I am here today, hopefully, if I can hit the perfect. To present to you the Best Foot Forward Pedestrian Safety Program and the activities that we've been doing within that program, along with a couple other updates of what Bike Walk has been up to this past year. So as a reminder, the Best Foot Forward Pedestrian Safety Program takes a 4E approach at increasing pedestrian safety at marked crosswalks across really entire Central Florida. I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. This program uses evaluation where we train data collectors to cross the crosswalk at marked intersections. I'll talk about some of the data collection in a minute. We also provide low-cost engineering solutions and recommendations to the partners that participate in the program. And when those are complete, we can collect before and after data in order to provide that to you to show you that those low-cost engineering improvements do make a difference in improving pedestrian safety. We also work with our local law enforcement partners to enforce the driver yield law. This past year, we did that quarterly. Moving forward, we're going to do that twice a year. But you can see here, we've handed out over 450 warnings and 260 citations. When we do that, I like to say that we're educating drivers, and maybe they will continue to share that message, good or bad. And then on the education side, these are the events, presentations, and now new to the program are sign waving activities, and I'll talk some of those in a minute. But we've totally reached 10,000 people, and that's the number of conversations, individual people we've shook hands with, handed out materials to, and the like. So this isn't just people that have attended the events generally. These are people that we know that we've made an impact and made sure that we've shared our message to. So we've been able to collect a lot of data over the past decade with this program. In addition, this program has recently expanded into all of District 5, the FDOT District 5, as well as into District 1 in Polk County. So we have a lot more crosswalks and cross sections and data that we're able to gather and then produce some insights from. So I'd like to share some of those with you today. And again, this is across the entire program, not just here in MetroPlan. When you install delineator flex posts near a crosswalk, either within the crosswalk or adjacent to it, creating almost a gateway treatment, it improves the driver yield rate, an average of 29–30% over at 3 crosswalks that we have collected data at so far. We look forward to providing this low-cost solution to other partners and continuing to collect before and after data in order to prove that this is a very effective low-cost solution for improving pedestrian safety. Another interesting solution that we've been able to finally track data on is the inclusion of speed humps ahead of the crosswalk. Actually have a higher driver yield rate than raised crosswalks. We think that that is because the car has to come to a almost a complete stop or go very, very slow as they're approaching that speed hump, and then they have more visibility to those that are standing on the side of the road asking or wanting to cross. So it just helps with speed, and anything vertical deflection will improve driver yield rate regardless. So we look forward to working actually with the City of Orlando and some of our other partners to continue to test this theory and do some more before and after data comparisons. And then because we've been able to now start measuring the effectiveness of pedestrian hybrid beacons, we've been able to break down the effectiveness of beacon types, including circular flashing beacons. Those just are continuous, are not on demand. Those really don't have an impact to the driver yield rate. We've been able to measure that across several jurisdictions. The rectangular rapid flashing beacons, we know they're effective. We know they work. They have an average of 73% change in that driver yield rate when they are installed before and after. And then pedestrian hybrid beacons really are effective at having almost a 90% average driver yield rate increase. But as a reminder, those are mostly installed on larger facilities, higher speed, so you need that greater traffic signal in order to slow those vehicles down, so you'll get greater compliance that way as well. Over on enforcement, our crosswalks, and the driver yield rate improves at crosswalks when these 3 type of enforcement efforts are met 100% of the time. Whether or not we enforce that crosswalk over a 2-year period, so we're consistent, and then we do it more than once a year. And then if that facility is 4 travel lanes or less, we don't really have that much of an impact on the driver travel lanes are greater than 4. But when those 3 things are applied, when we are consistent with our enforcement efforts, we do find that the average driver yield rate increases 13%. We had 8 crosswalks meet this criteria this past year. Last year, we We had 4 meet this criteria. What we're finding is that without the consistent enforcement efforts, those driver yield rates ebb and flow, right? As you kind of naturally see. We also see that with our sign waving activities, which I'll show you in a minute as well. So as we've talked, we've included sign waving activities as a new one of our outreach activities. It's been very well rewarded. A lot of our partners like to do this, come out and take a couple hours and wave at cars and talk to community and residents that are on the sides of the road, walking, biking, rolling. And we know that they're effective. We've been able to now measure the before and after effectiveness of the driver yield rate at the crosswalks in which we're doing these sign waving events and activities. And they've shown an improvement of 11%. Again, we've piloted this past year. These sign waving activities, we're going to do more this year. So I look forward to bringing and looking at additional data that shows the effectiveness of this. Again, what we're finding is it wanes. So the driver yield rate will go up, but if you're not consistent waving the signs, getting out and educating, then that driver yield rate does dissipate over time. At those community events, we're having conversations. Like I said, we're talking to people about all things walking, biking, and rolling. What we're finding is that most of our drivers in our community know that they have to stop for people at a marked crosswalk, but don't realize that they have to do that at unmarked intersections as well. And we educate that either regardless if the crosswalk is marked or unmarked, you have to stop and yield to a pedestrian and give them the right of way. And lastly, we're getting a lot of community conversations, I know you are too, about the rise in electric bike and scooter usage. And we're trying to provide resources and things that the community can either do to improve education and or talk to their elected officials about some of the changes that they'd like to see in their community. So I want to go through and talk to about a few different crosswalks that have made improvements over this past year. I'll start in Osceola County with Tallahassee Boulevard and Mayaca. This is a very wide intersection. So the county came in and painted the median, put brighter crosswalk signage in, really low cost solutions, increased the driver yield rate with an enforcement 7%. We're looking forward to working with Osceola County to continue to improve that driver yield rate. Over in Oakland Ave at the Oakland Charter School, the Oakland Police Department has been very busy enforcing this. Over 6 times, 103 traffic citations or stops made, and a 12% increase in the driver yield rate. They also swapped out to some brighter crosswalk signage, so that does make an impact. In Orlando, Gaston Foster and Natalie, we did a sign waving event, just one event, and it increased the driver yield rate 16%. So you can see that those are making an impact, but we do need to continue to make sure that we're educating the community consistently. Over in Longwood at Dog Track and Ronald Reagan, we've done 2 enforcements there, issued several warnings and citations, and completed a sign waving event. Had the largest increase of 23%. So before it was 41% drivers yielding, afterwards it was 64%. I know we're still working with Longwood on trying to think about ways to improve that crosswalk. Over in Seminole County at Markham Road and Lake Markham Road, they threw the book at this, included stop here for ped signage, stop bar markings, and enforce this crosswalk. It is a trail crossing with over 35 stops, and this had a 21% increase in the driver yield rate. We do look forward to continuing to monitor this crosswalk as the county has made additional improvements here. Over in Orlando, Primrose Drive and Delwood, the city added speed humps near the crosswalk. So again, going back to that before and after, and it increased the driver yield rate almost overnight to 62% from 31%. We look forward to continuing to monitor this crosswalk and others with the city to see if these crosswalks before and after really do improve the driver yield rate. And last but not least is Orange County over at Forsyth in the Katy Way Trail. We've talked about this crosswalk frequently. This is very popular. And unfortunately, this facility we've seen speed issues when we go out and do enforcement operations. But with the installation of a rectangular rapid flashing beacon and an enforcement, we were able to increase the driver yield rate almost 50% at this location, which is fantastic. Some other things that we've been doing with the Bike Walk Central Florida, we've been implementing and piloting a program called Bike Walk Kids. This program goes in and teaches either in-school presentations about bicycle and e-scooter usage to mostly middle school age children. We also fit helmets with that program as well. As you can see, over 1,000 helmets in 5 different events. And then we also run bike rodeos where we teach children the handling skills of riding a bike. For those that might not have had the opportunity to learn In total, we've distributed almost 2,000 helmets with this program, and we were very thankful to receive funding from DOT, Orange County, OBT Next, and the Kimley Horn Foundation to make this impact within the Orlando metro region. We are looking forward to continuing this program. Thank you, Orange County, for putting some money aside to continue our efforts here. We also are looking for additional grant funding and foundation funding to continue our efforts across the 3 counties. Our Healthy West Orange Trails Connection Program, this is a program we facilitate out of West Orange County. The only update I really wanted to share here is that we've awarded 2 grants out of the $5 million that was set aside for improvements within this region. 2 of those include a trail and a tour program with Oakland Nature Preserve. We are working now with those partners to develop a long-term master plan of those trails that we've identified that connects those cities within the West Orange County. We've also provided trail evaluations and work with those partners on a regular basis to improve connectivity and the design standards in which how private and public development treat trails as we implement them through West Orange County. Last but not least, we're very excited about this project we completed in Seminole County. We made digital and printable trail maps and brochures. Everybody likes a good printable map. We get that question a lot when we're doing our events and presentations in the community. Seminole County listened and they said, here, Bike Walk, go forth and make these 7 different trail maps and brochures. So we were able to do that. Including linking these individual trails to the region, and then also showing some other locations and things that are in cities and the county, library, schools, parks, things of that nature that the users then can find on these different trail maps. These larger trail maps were going to be up on the trail kiosks at all of these different trailhead locations throughout the county coming soon. So looking forward to seeing that implemented and these trail maps printed. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about the Best Foot Forward program or anything else that we're up to at Bike Walk. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Do we have any questions from the group?
Mr. Speaker, or Mr. Chairman, excuse me. You had a slide where you described the effect of the enforcement. Like there were the 3 steps that you had for the crosswalk. You said these conditions were met, where it's 4 lanes or less. You enforced it twice a year, 2 different seasons, and that is without any other treatment applied to that crossing. It's just you have a crosswalk and you do those 3 things and you see that result.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Whitfield?
the monitoring, hi, Emily. The monitoring that you did for the before and after, what times of the day was it peaks or throughout the whole day?
It is throughout the whole day. We try not to go, so if it's before and after within a school zone, we do not collect data with a crossing guard present, so we won't necessarily go during peak time. That'll be right before or right after. And we don't do dusk, just to, prevent injury to our data collectors. But it ranges. It will be morning, midday, afternoon, and we do try to vary the times for that good average.
Okay, great, thank you.
Phil?
Yes, the other day I had the privilege of attending the TAC meeting, and I just wanted to bring up that I did say that starting next year in 2026, I have received an email previously, and I couldn't find it, that it's a House Bill 283 that they will be making beacons, some type of flashing mandatory for projects starting next year. I think it's late October of 2026 is actually when it will go into effect. So I had brought that up, and I did thank you for MetroPlan. Sarah and them did find that and all, but that is something that will be taking effect on certain projects. They have to meet it and so forth and all that. And I just wanted to bring that back up.
Thank you. Laura sent that to me yesterday, so I'm gonna look at that this evening.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Arturo?
Hey, Emily,
Hello.
quick question. The enforcement is great because you're handing out tickets and all that stuff. But have you thought of going to like DMV where the people are taking the driver's license test and maybe giving them a flyer or something that says by state law you have to yield to pedestrians?
So we do pop-ups outside of the DMVs. We try to rotate different county locations and who allow us to pop up and put up a table outside of DMVs, but we do that often and make sure that we hand out the same tear sheet that a driver would receive if they are pulled over and receive a warning and or citation during our enforcement operations.
That's great.
Laura?
Hey, Emily, great presentation. I got a sneak peek at it yesterday with your staff, and I'd be remiss if I didn't share with you the same thing I shared with them, that I think over the past 5 years, well, city, I think we signed our 10th contract with the BFF program this year. And over the last 5 years, it's just been really instrumental in our Vision Zero success. And so big thanks to you and your team for contributing to that. But I did promise you a hardball question. So
Bring it.
A lot of the crosswalks we've chosen over the years are near schools and in school zones. So how do you foresee the BFF program interacting with school zone speed cameras as those are rolled out?
That's a great question. I think we're able to look at before and after data, and that's really what we're able to bring to the table and bring to our partners, those that are interested in what those cameras might do to reduce speeds, number one, that's the most impact. But by reducing speed, you're going to naturally increase the driver yield rate. So looking at how that couples together, I think would be important. And we look forward to working with partners that want that before and after data, especially at locations where they might be thinking about putting in those traffic signal, those cameras to look at that. But yeah, we're happy to work with our partners to make sure that we can provide that data.
Brad?
Good morning. Thanks for the presentation. For many, many years, the wrench has been put on the motorists, and rightfully so. There's a lot of bad behavior there. Have any of the agencies that you've worked with asked you to pivot and look at the behavior of pedestrians and bicycles?
No.
What are your thoughts on that?
Right. I will say that we try to, when we are doing our outreach and education, we talk about how to be a visible and a pedestrian that follows the law. Same thing with cyclists. We always try to advocate for, if you're in the road, you follow the rules of the road as a driver. When you're on the sidewalk, follow the rules of pedestrian. So we try to make sure that when we're out in doing those types of events and presentations, that we're really doing education. We really don't want to blame anyone. Same thing with drivers, right? We don't want to blame the drivers because they're the ones that have the bigger vehicle and are generally not paying attention, right? But it could go both ways. But generally, if you have two people walk into each other, you're not going to have a serious injury fatality, right? Not so much with bikes anymore, because now with e-bikes, they go greater speed. So if they were to collide, you have some serious injuries, but we're really focused on where we can reduce the death and the serious injuries. And that is really the driver and pedestrian and cyclist conflict, which is why we focus on the driver education.
My kind of focus of my question was not pedestrian to pedestrian or bike to bike, but where pedestrians dash out and make it unpredictable for the motorists. And that can cause all kinds of things as well. But
absolutely. And to that, I'll say it's a lot of design. There's a reason why they're darting and dashing. And there might not be appropriate place for them to cross. And we see that quite often. And when the roadway is improved and provides opportunities for people to cross and cross safely and cross when a motorist knows that they're given the opportunity to, then we see that it improves. And we see lower fatalities and serious injuries when it's designed with people in mind. Mm-hmm.
So I think I've been around since the program started, and it's been a great program. But I want to tag on to what Brian just said. I see many locations where there are good crossing opportunities, and pits are not using them properly. They'll cross 20, 30 feet away. A motorist does not expect that. And I think we need to focus a lot on training pedestrians in schools and in other places, because I agree, I see it every day. I see where we put up RRFBs for people to cross, and they're crossing instead 15, 20, 30 feet away, and it gives a headache to motorists. So it's actually a big thing. I appreciate everything Best Foot Forward has been doing since the very start. It's been terrific for Central Florida. But I have to agree with Brian on this. It's a pet peeve of mine.
And our planners and engineers have headaches trying to deal with this.
So I'll just respond, and we had an example actually in Winter Park of an ALF that was across from a Publix, and there was a woman on a in a wheelchair, and she couldn't actually get from where she was in the ALF down the sidewalk to where she needed to cross and cross. So she was crossing out in the intersection. And we worked with some of the staff at Winter Park to try to see if we could improve the opportunities for her to use the crosswalk as designed. And unfortunately, just the way that she was able to use the crosswalk and come up, she just couldn't do it with the wheelchair. So again, I go back and I ask, are the crosswalks in the appropriate place based on the land use? I'm a land use planner, so I always look at where we're putting people and where they need to cross the road, and is the infrastructure in the right place to support them to do so?
So I agree that we need to continually look to see how we improve our infrastructure. But the issue that Brian talked about is a huge one. And so I absolutely agree. We need to be always looking at how we can have safe routes for all.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a big, big deal. I was going to buy a pair of shoes the other evening, leaving work, going down Orange Blossom Trail, and seeing all these nice new signals that have been put in, the hawk signals put in to help pedestrians. And there are some things in there that to prohibit pedestrians from prohibit them from crossing at places away from the hawk signals, and they're still doing it. So I think we got to do some education for pedestrians also. It's a big part of it. I see people crossing on OBT and trying to, walk a tightrope in that median where there's a barrier. And so I just think there has to be a big pedestrian focus also. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for letting me preach.
Yeah, of course.
Carl?
Yeah, adding to what Charles said, have you tried to lobby for jaywalking laws in Florida?
The only jaywalking law that exists is when somebody crosses between two signalized intersections without a mid-block or without a cross street. So no, because technically everything else would be, we want the pedestrian to have the right of way. We want people to be able to walk and bike and make those decisions to choose to cross instead of waiting for a traffic signal to do so. So no, that's not been something that we've lobbied. One of the things that we have tried to support is changing 316.137C, which is that the driver has to stop and or yield to a pedestrian. A and B refer to signalized intersections. C refers to mid-block. And A and B say stop for the driver. C says yield. So one of the things that we're hoping to do is just ask to change that yield to stop to make it consistent so that it is consistent for drivers too, regardless of if it's a mid-block or a signalized intersection, they have to stop and let that pedestrian cross instead of yield.
Laura?
Yeah, I just want to chime in on the enforcement piece for pedestrians and cyclists. Even though we have so much support through the BFF program, our law enforcement officers still find it difficult to do the enforcements in the time periods. They're pulled in so many directions with temporary traffic control and events and violent crime. So we found it better to prioritize the most dangerous maneuvers, which are often from the motorist, and enforce those infractions over enforcing crossing, dashing, and all of that. They're also open to more interpretation where it can get really murky with enforcement there.
Mm-hmm.
So the bigger bang for our buck has been on the motorist enforcement than on bicycle and pedestrian. But the educational pieces, which is tied into all of these, the sign wavings, the high visibility enforcements. I mean, the amount of press we continue to get for BFF is wild to me. It's the same story every time, but they'll still cover it. So that's where I think we get the biggest bang for our buck in the pedestrian and bicycle education.
Ms. Whitfield?
Yes, thank you. I just want to share my own little anecdote. When I was in consulting, we did work with that this particular project wasn't with Bike Walk, but we were out there with the signs and the educational materials for a rapid flashing beacon over on Americana. And I'm telling these people, I'm like, hey, this is how you should do it. And the one lady just like, thanks, dear. And she walks across. Then the next gentleman comes on his phone, activates the beacon. The beacon has caused vehicles to stop, and he's waving them to go ahead through the flashing beacon while he stays on the side of the road on his phone. So I agree with Brian and Charles very strongly that we do have to educate the walking public or the rolling public, and it starts at our schools and our middle schoolers. One of my city commissioners almost got hit by a golf cart. So, it's got to be both for all three. Thank you.
All right, I'm sorry, quick. Real quick.
So you mentioned about going to DMVs and things like that. What about, do you work with the high schools that have driver's education programs teaching the students?
Yeah, there are.
Talk about your videos and all that.
Yeah, we don't actually have videos. We do more presentations for the program in and of itself. We are in high schools when we're asked to be, but we haven't gone out and done a big campaign there because some of that is covered within the driver's ed program. That's why focusing on the DMVs and those pop-up locations like the libraries and things where we know we're going to see a variety of different ages and different driving ability or driving audience. That's why we try to tackle those and not necessarily go and focus on specific schools.
Okay, yeah, I saw some videos that are on your page on YouTube. I want to look at those because I took my son, he's learning how to drive now at 16, and we went through a shopping plaza on Black Friday, busy time to go driving, and he just blew through every single raised crosswalk as people are trying to, and I yelled at him so many times, I almost had a heart attack.
Thank
and
you.
So I was like, these videos will help out to, let him understand, hey, you got to yield to the pedestrians. So
we have small snippets, I guess they're called shorts on YouTube. So we do have a few, but I thank you for bringing that up about driving in like private property and shopping plazas, because that's not something that we really educate on, and I think that we should. So I'm going to bring that back to our team, Jenna, and see if we can't create a couple videos just to educate drivers in that specific scenario.
Well, thank you, Emily. I'm sorry. Any other comments or questions?
One last one quick.
No
In-road
more
lighting.
comments or questions after this.
In-road lighting, have you seen that's helped with them, with the beacons? Is that something? Because that's really, there's been problems with that. We have one in ours in the city and it seems to help, but we have problems with the in-road versus just the others. So have you noticed that does help with the inroad?
We haven't monitored any crosswalks that have the inroad lighting in to do the before and after data, but what I know from national studies is the inroad lighting, when tied to the facility, the light, does improve the pedestrian, the driver yield rate. I would love if we can do a before and after. So if any of our partners are planning on installing any inroad lighting, let us know so we can get that before and after data. That'd be fantastic.
Well, I know everyone probably has more questions for Emily. If we do, please direct them to Slade after the meeting and we'll make sure they get answered.
And I'll be here till the end. So.
And I'll talk with you offline. We're actually looking at, if we get the SS4A grant, to do exactly that, the in-road lighting at our raised crosswalks at Central Parkway. So I'll let you know if we get approved and how that works. But I wanted to thank you again, Emily. And I wanted to see if you could look at the speed cushions instead of the raised humps before the crosswalks, because with Seminole County, we're getting a lot of pushback with emergency services. So we are looking to do speed cushions as opposed to raised crossings or humps, unless we have to do the crossing.
Understood. I know that Dr. Brock has a really great video showing that speed cushions do not slow down emergencies.
Yes, the raised crosswalk.
Yes. Yeah.
I'll also just mention that I think that image that you showed from Super Orlando, those were actually speed cushions in that example. So it's
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. We will now move on to public comments on action items. We will now hear public comments. We ask that you provide your name and address for the record, and please hold your comments to 2 minutes or less. If any members of the public wish to comment and are joining us virtually, please use the raise hand function and you will be recognized, or dial *9 on your phone keypad. We'll send you a prompt to unmute your mic. Do we have anyone joining us virtually who would like to make a comment?
No hands raised.
Do we have any members of the public attending in person that wish to make a comment?
No comments received.
Were there any written comments that were submitted before the meeting?
None received.
Okay. So we will move on to action items. The first action item is the October 24th, 2025 meeting minutes. Full meeting minutes included in section 1 of the agenda packets. Do I hear a motion for the approval?
Motion to approve the minutes.
And I second, Schatzman.
And so we have a motion and a second. Discussion? Seeing none, this is a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, like sign? Wait, did you have a discussion, a question?
No.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Enthusiastic.
Yeah. All right, that motion passed. Moving on to the next item, the adoption of the 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan. Taylor Laurent can tell us more on that, and there's more information in section 2 of the agenda packets. Taylor?
All right, thank you so much. So some of you from the TISMO meeting have heard this presentation already, so I'll try and spice it up a little bit for this go around. But today we are asking for you to take action upon the 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan. So after this 2-year process, where we've gone through and completed the entirety of the 2050 MTP, met all of our technical requirements, all of our federal requirements, we're now at that last step where we're looking for that adoption. But again, throughout this entire process, we have been including both your and the public's feedback throughout the development of this 2050 plan to make sure that it's representative of our entire region. And now that we have our final public participation metrics, I can share those with you as well. We've had over 13,500 people engage with us through this 2050 MTP planning process and incorporated their feedback and thoughts into this plan, exceeding many of our goals that we had for our public engagement, which we're very excited about. So that included both in-person and online events, including our online survey, which was open for quite a long time through this MTP's development. We also included your feedback through our technical workshop process, as well as hosting our interdisciplinary interviews and local coordination meetings with you all, and of course, meeting during these advisory committee and board meetings to make sure that everyone was up to date on the development of the 2050 plan. We were including your feedback along the way. So since our last meeting where we previewed the entirety of the 2050 plan, there have been a few minor revisions to the document based on partner feedback that we've received. Additional information and specifics about these particular revisions is included in section 2 of your agenda packets. Following that board action fact sheet, there is a summary of revisions. So that'll give you the information that you need there. But in short, these include minor typographical revisions throughout the document, dotting those I's, crossing the T's, incorporating those final public participation metrics and that documentation, as well as including some additional information about the Florida Wildlife Corridor. There have also been some minor edits to some of our maps and figures to incorporate some additional planning consistency projects now that we have line work for those particular items, as well as incorporating the latest financial information from our TIP. So that does include last month's, your October-November TIP amendment that was approved, as well as a TIP amendment that the TAC will hear about following my presentation. Then there are also a few updates that were made to local and turnpike projects based on some agency coordination the past few weeks. Again, additional information and specifics is included in section 2 of your agenda packets. So unless there are any questions this morning, we are asking for your recommendation of approval of the 2050 MTP and the congestion management process as it's been presented today.
Do I hear a call for a motion?
Move approval.
And the second?
Second.
And a discussion? Seeing none. This is a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion passed. Thank you, Taylor. Next is the amendments to the 2026-2030 Transportation Improvement Plan, or Improvement Program. Alex Trager can tell us more about that, and there's more information in section 3 of the agenda packets.
Sure. So you're getting both kind of back-to-back topics that you probably heard, many of you heard this morning. But again, we have two tip amendments that are on the agenda for today. The first one is a federal discretionary grant, a PROTECT grant. That's a transportation resiliency federal program that Osceola County received. FHWA is currently ready to get that one underway, and it needs to be added to the transportation improvement program so that grant can be executed and the county can begin reimbursement upon that discretionary grant. So good news there for Osceola County. The second project's an existing record. This is the Point Siena Connector project being led by Florida's Turnpike Enterprise. As you probably recall from last year, this was one of the governor's initiative projects under the Moving Florida Forward initiative. That first phase for right-of-way was originally programmed. Costs have increased, so they're adding right-of-way funds, state right-of-way funds for that. And also good news to this particular project is they're also adding additional state discretionary funds for the construction of that phase. So good news there. And with that, we're asking for your approval of those two items today.
Move approval.
Second, Shannon Smith.
Any discussion? Seeing none, this is a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Seeing none, motion passed. Thanks, Alex. And for our final action item, second to last action item, election of the 2026 Technical Advisory Committee officers. Slade Downs can tell us more about that. And then we will follow with elections. There's more information in section 4 of the agenda packet. Slade?
Thanks, Chair. At our last meeting, the TAC voted to appoint a officer selection and bylaws review subcommittee. Traditionally, the positions of chair and vice chair rotate amongst the 3 counties, as well as cities, towns, and other transportation agencies within, to ensure even representation on the TAC leadership. Our current chair, Lenny, representing Seminole, and then our vice chair, Miles, representing the Osceola slot in the rotation. The subcommittee met on November 5th, 2025, and a summary of that meeting is attached to the agenda packet in section 5, I believe, so they, as a outcome, that subcommittee nominated a slate of Miles O'Keefe moving up to TAC chair for 2026 and Humberto Casillero of Orange County as vice chair. So I'll turn it back over to chair to hold the elections.
Thank you, Slade. We'll have separate motions for the chair and vice chair. Do we have any additional nominations for chair? I'm seeing none. Do we have a motion to approve the nomination of Miles O'Keefe as the 2026 Technical Advisory Committee Chair?
I motion.
And do we have a second?
Second, Sanders.
And a discussion? Arturo?
No, I was gonna say I second them, but
This is a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Hearing none. Congratulations, Miles.
Thanks.
All right, so now we'll move on to the vice chair. The subcommittee has nominated Humberto Casillero for vice chair. Are there any other nominations for vice chair? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the nomination?
so moved.
So moved. And a second?
Second, Hardwick.
All right, any discussion? Seeing none, this is a voice vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign? None. Congratulations, Humberto, for vice chair. All right, so now we will move on to our last action item. Adoption of the 2026 Technical Advisory Committee bylaws. Slade Downs can tell us more about that, and there's more information in section 5 of the agenda packet.
All right, thank you. So as I mentioned before, the Officer Selection and Bylaws Review Subcommittee met on November 5th, and summary of that meeting in your agenda packets. At that meeting, a list of proposed changes to the TAC bylaws was discussed, and the full bylaws with changes highlighted are in the agenda packets. Just give you the highlights of what those changes are. Every time a bylaws adjustment is made, take a look at the population apportionment for the members. So this time around, Ocoee and Winter Garden respectively will both get an additional voting seat to adjust for population. And the town of Oakland's seat will go from a non-voting to a voting member, and a non-voting seat has been created for UCF. Additionally, minor administrative modifications were made on pages 4, 6, 7, and 8. Any questions on the bylaws changes?
I have a question. So what was the population number that changed the number of voting representatives and so forth?
So I believe any member below 5,000 population is a non-voting member.
Okay.
5 to
That was the number. I wanted that.
yeah. What's that? 49,000. Thank you.
So it's 49. Okay, so
Yeah.
it's just a 50. So if they're over 50, basically they're in. Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I was wanting to know, because I remember last time we did this, there was a question too. So okay.
Thanks. Any other questions? Okay.
All right, with no other questions, I will call.
Oh,
you're good.
I was too slow with my thing there. What was I'm just curious what the discussion was with adding UCF, and if there was discussion with adding other colleges or any, precedent with that.
Yeah, so basically a lot of the right now the 3 school districts have seats on TAC, and that is kind of traditionally how the TACs at other MPOs operate, where they represent those. And UCF approached us about having kind of a more formal involvement in this committee. I believe they have a seat either on the Community Advisory Committee or TISMO. It's TISMO, okay. And so this would kind of mirror that, since we do a lot of mirroring with TISMO. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion on it? Okay.
UCF's non-voting? Why? Why non-voting?
It's a good question. Why? That was just kind of how it shook out in the meeting. I believe I see Alex approaching the podium.
Yeah, that's what they requested, just based on their desire to participate in the process, kind of get their feet wet, as Slade and Rachel validated. They have had a role on the Systems Management and Operations Committee for the past decade or so. Participation, has had its ebb and flow, so there's no cost to them to participate as a non-voting member through an apportionment process. Yes, sir. So that's part of those appointment letters that go out, as kind of validating the local assessment relationship. So without muddying up kind of the Orange County portion of that, it's just a way for them to engage in the process, given the significance of the economy and transportation system that's surrounding UCF.
Based on population, the county doesn't have enough elected officials to fill that need. So UCF could be added without any issue of over-representation. We're actually very underrepresented.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, I call for a motion to adopt what was the Adoption of the 2026 Technical Advisory Committee bylaws.
I move to accept as presented.
Second. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I didn't catch the second, please.
Umberto.
Thank you.
Seeing no discussion, this is a voice vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion passed. All right, now we will move on to our Technical Advisory Committee only presentations. Our first one is with Eric Hill from Metro Plan Orlando with the presentation on the annual traffic signal retiming before and after study.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, committee members. Every year we go through a traffic signal retiming effort around the 3 counties to improve mobility through our traffic signal retiming. And this is for the year 23-24. There we go. So why do we do this? Of course, to improve mobility, reduce delay on our roadways, try to address speeding, and also to try and accommodate our vulnerable road users that want to have access to the intersections. So the next few slides will highlight those roadways and intersections that we retimed in 23 and 24. Here are the roadways in Orange County, roadways in Seminole County. And what's being passed out is an infographic which summarizes everything that I'm presenting to you this morning. No doubt in the future, this won't have to occur. I won't have to stand here and give you a presentation because it'll be available on our website, or because of AI, you'll be able to just receive this information. And then the roadways in Osceola County. So since we've been doing this program, the number of traffic signals that have been deployed has increased. And so this just indicates that the resources that we use for this program may need to increase. However, what we want to try and do is apply some new strategies, some new approaches to reduce the cost so that we can become more efficient. And this is the topic of discussion this morning at the TISMO meeting. So when we started, I think it was Charlie Wetzel told us that they are probably the last agency to use floating cars to check their traffic signals. But that's how we started. And then eventually we migrated to Bluetooth readers along the roadways, picking up signals from vehicles. And now we are getting information from probe vehicles, vehicles that are transmitting data to us. What we use to evaluate our program, travel time, intersection delay, reliability, pedestrian delay, emissions, progression through the intersections, and fuel saving. So during this particular year, 50% of the corridors that we retimed had shorter travel times. 80% have improved reliability times before and after the retiming. There was an increase in in vehicle emissions as well as fuel consumption. And what may account for this is while we had 50% of the cars with less or shorter travel times, 50% of the cars either had higher travel times and increased volume. So we suggest that that has contributed to the change in these two variables. 25% of individual intersections had less intersection delay. 6% of them had less pedestrian delay. And 85% of the corridors now have motorists stopping fewer times. So one of the factors that we always go to when we evaluate this program is the benefit cost. In this particular year, we had a negative 0.4 benefit cost. Not great. However, what we're used to is a higher benefit cost ratio. There was one year where we had a -6 benefit cost ratio, and that was due mainly to roadways being retimed with schools on them. And so the argument is, do you want to increase travel speeds on those roadways or reduce? And I would fall on the side where we want to reduce that travel time. This is what I was speaking to. A lot of success early on because we weren't doing it scientifically, but since we started the program, it's ebbed and flowed throughout the years. So it is a balancing act that we try and have winning results. It's not always that case, but as I continue this discussion here, we are trying to identify some strategies to make the program not only continue its success, but evolve. And so this is a little bit of what I'm saying. You know, winning can mask a lot of underlying issues. And some of those are perhaps all the traffic signals that we retimed, they've already been optimized, so we can't get much more out of it. The plans have been implemented in a way that hasn't contributed to improvements. Case in point, Alafaya Trail. The after data was collected in the month of May. And for those that are associated with UCF, there's a lot of graduations during the month of May. And so that may have impacted the after results. Coordination. We have 4 vendors that do the retiming. And so while one may have one roadway and another vendor has the intersecting roadway, they're not coordinated, or there's not a great deal of coordination. So we want to, that's one of the items that we want to address as we move forward. Side streets. When we first started this program, I can remember that was the first comment we got. You improve the arterial travel times, but the side roads, side streets have to wait longer. So we did a quick sample, 2 years, and we did find that the side roads did not wait any longer than what their perception was. And work zones. These impact before and after data collection. The people who are around the dais from Osceola County can probably identify with this, with the amount of work that they have going on in Osceola County. Now, I mentioned earlier that we want this program to evolve. And it seems like traffic signals are soup du jour. We've had comments from our board on this last month. When I gave the presentation this week to our Community Advisory Committee, they had a lot of comments and questions on it as well, in terms of emerging technology that can be deployed, which we are pursuing. We completed a TISMO master plan a couple of years ago, and a lot of the recommendations from that plan will go into our Metropolitan Transportation Plan. We want to address concerns for pedestrians and cyclists that want to have access to the intersections as well as folks with disabilities. How can we address that using the technology that is coming and the technology that we can deploy now? Question from our municipal advisory committee was, how does freight traffic impact the before and after data collection? That's a hard one to get at, but we want to try and address it. Also from the MAC was, are we doing a test between those quarters that we are retiming versus those that haven't been retimed? We do not. It is an opportunity for us to consider. So this morning at our TISMO committee, we had 2 presentations. One on from Osceola County on the NREX platform they're using, and from Seminole County on the Clearview platform that they're using to monitor, to evaluate, to identify those quarters and signals that do need to be retimed. Historically, it's been like a 3-year cycle. So you retime a roadway, 3 years later, you come back and retime it again. Well, what happens if there's a lot of development along that roadway in a year? So that timing plan is out of whack now. That's one aspect. The other one is complaints. If you're receiving complaints from citizens, there's that normal reaction to retime a traffic signal, which doesn't always lead to improvement. So we want to look at if we can develop a strategy or methodology to scientifically look at what roadways and intersections we need to retime, and then the performance measures that we use to evaluate the improvement itself or the investment. We, as a committee, agreed that we would look at the month of January to put together or to have a workshop and bring in some experts or folks that are, seasoned in this area to come in and facilitate a discussion on how our program can evolve, the technology, emerging technologies that we can look at, and other strategies or approach that we can use to improve our program. So, Mr. Chairman, with that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Eric. Do we have any questions?
Yes, Eric, thank you so much for the presentation and for all the work that you guys do. In your presentation, you were mentioning on the third and the fourth point that you are looking at some of the different modes of transportation for the pedestrians and for the safety. One of the things that we are trying to do in Orange County as far as pedestrian safety is to implement the leading pedestrian intervals. I think that is very critical for us. Of course, that plays a factor into the signal coordination. Also, as part of the ADA, it seems that some of these intersections, they had the combined ramps as opposed to the separate ramps. So we are trying to separate them so we can reduce the crossing distance for the pedestrians, but also it is safer, especially if you have some sort of an impediment because the diagonal is directing you to the middle of the intersection as opposed to just crossing safely. So from that perspective, maybe the metrics that we are using to determine our success that will have to be revisited, because I know that on one hand, we are trying to look at the progression of the vehicles, but there are other palpable benefits that perhaps we're not accounting for, and that will be also a winner strategy. You were talking about school zones, and school zones, just to give you an example, an unfortunate example, about 3 months ago, there was this young lady that she was crossing at the Oak Ridge High School. We have two signals in between. One is at the entrance of the school. The other one is at the signalized intersection. The posted speed is 45 miles per hour. Now, we know based on statistics and facts that if you get hit at 40 miles per hour and you're a pedestrian, your rate, your percentage of survival is just 10%. She got hit at the speed limit, 45 miles per hour. So obviously she died. It was very unfortunate. So with that, what we are trying to do is also to implement school zones within high schools. Usually, I don't know about other municipalities, but in Orange County, we were trying to focus on elementary and middle schools with the understanding that perhaps, if you're in high school, you will have more of a selection and where to cross or have a little bit more awareness, but unfortunately things happen. So when we talk about the safe systems for all, we need to provide redundancy. So as part of that, we're also gonna be implementing the school zones and also using the cameras. So we will be happy to partner with Bywalk Central Florida. So we are looking at that very aggressively. The other element that I don't know if that has been considered as part of your signal retiming is the location of the bus stops. I know that if you have a near site, for the most part, you will be delaying some of that traffic because you are stopping, even if you have a green light. But if you put it on the far side, then you clear that intersection. So maybe that can improve some of the timing, but at the same time, it's safer, I guess, for pedestrians and for the movements of cars. The other thing is that are we looking at the speed determination within the corridor? I know that as part of the complete streets and the Florida Design Manual, they went from a very prescriptive method of just telling what speed is based on the 85th percentile, that now we have ranges. So maybe as part of this traffic signal coordination, we can take a look at if the speeds, they need to vary or be adjusted. I think that that can be a winner. And last but not least, I know that in some corridors, especially in other states, when you have a large volume of traffic going through a corridor, that they started looking at RCODs just to make sure when you were talking about side streets. So if you can reduce the timing because of the signalized RCODs, and maybe recommending some of these corridors that perhaps that could be, it is expensive, but maybe it can be also part of the strategy for throughput, as well as having safety. And the last thing that we are doing in Orange County, this is when I drive and we're moving to the Universal Corridor, is that we are using adaptive signal controllers. Of course, that requires money because we need to have all the equipment and a lot of things. So not only we have the coordination, but also we know that based on the actual volumes, especially that area with the convention center, sometimes traffic, it cannot be predictive, so it can be a little bit wild. So in summary, I think that there is a lot to consider, that we can take a look at our signal coordination and have different metrics that can tell the full story.
So when we schedule this workshop, we'll send invitations to TAC members. So you're more than welcome to participate and contribute these thoughts. Also, in terms of safety, we are going to do a demonstration in Seminole County with how traffic signals can reduce speeds. So that's something that we will be doing as well. So thank you for your comments.
Charles?
So, Eric, we talked about this topic at a recent meeting a couple months ago, maybe within the last 2 months. This came up generally. Maybe it was not in one of these TAC or TISMO meetings, but another meeting. We talked about this general topic, and I agree with a lot of what you said. In short, I think we need to revisit the metrics, because in addition for transit, for example, you talked about one component of the transit, which was the location of bus stops. But maybe we ought to be talking to links to try to find out, how is their on-time service? Is it improving? Is it not? So I think, having more of a multimodal focus, I think is important. And we need to also remember that we're not using data, we're not measuring data every day to use in these evaluations. It's once or twice maybe. And so that data might, fluctuate, might not give you the real story. But I believe by doing this timing effort on a regular basis, we're making a difference. So I'd revisit the metrics and especially focus more on having a multimodal perspective on this, because it's more than just moving vehicles quicker. There's some other things at play that are very important to us. So I won't be on this committee anymore. I'm designating someone else to be on this one and someone else to be on TISMO, but I'd certainly be interested if the chair or vice chair would allow me to serve on that committee. I'd be grateful for that opportunity.
Sure. And we welcome that opportunity to have you, because we know you're a seasoned professional in this area, Charles. I don't want to miss that opportunity.
Laura?
Definitely agree with a lot of what Umberto has said on that, so I won't belabor the point and agree that maybe the benefit cost analysis is not the right tool for measuring the success of this program at this point. And then I think I've said it before, maybe not in this room exactly, but a lot of what you're talking about is summed up in Peter Firth's research on safe waves that the TRB just recognized with an award last year, basically saying that yes, we can reduce speeding opportunities with little to no delay increase. So, and a lot of that is lower cycle length, some of the things that are showing up here, but also going beyond. I think the one that concerns me is the 85% of motorists stopping fewer times, because the Safe Waves research shows that breaking up coordination into smaller zones really helps you get that safety impact and having motorists stop maybe in different contexts so that the signals can be timed better for the shapes of those intersections rather than a whole downtown grid, for example, that you've got a lot of different size intersections. And so just another voice in the choir with this. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura. Any other, Kelly?
Outside my area of expertise, but it's sort of in line with what everybody's been saying. And it probably doesn't make sense to do it as a snapshot. It would need to be long-term, but is it reducing fatalities and serious injuries, or is it contributing to a reduction or an increase? So tracking how these corridors are performing over time, I think that's an easy thing for us to look at. So just a suggestion to consider.
Thanks, Kelly.
And Mr. Chairman, if I can, I shared this with I think it was the Community Advisory Committee. I was at the Conference of Minority Transportation Officials meeting this July in New York City, and I listened to a speech by one of the city commissioners, and he expressed how we need to view our intersections as sacred places that we can all be enter and exit from safely. And I thought that this really hit the nail on the head. That's how we need to treat our intersections as sacred places, because we all want to intersect through there. So.
Thank you, Eric. I don't see any other comments or questions. Excited to see this. Our next presentation is Alex Schrager from Metroplan Orlando with the presentation and discussion on the 2026 Call for Projects Guidelines. More information on that is in section 6 of the agenda packet. Hey, Alex.
All right, so this is a follow-up to a follow-up, but we had a presentation, if you recall, at your last technical advisory committee meeting, which led us to creating a working group to dive a little bit deeper into the guidelines. So I do want to first off thank each of our working group volunteers, Humberto, Laura, Miles, and Lenny, as well as Jennifer, for volunteering and donating their time and talents to us putting together the guidelines that are provided in section 6 of your agenda packet. So my presentation, the last technical presentation of the year here, we'll really just kind of run through what's changed and what to look out for as it relates to the next few weeks as we start 2020, the new calendar year fresh. So again, as approved in the 2050 MTP, we do have 3 box funds. The first one is for safe routes to school or school mobility projects. We use that as a contingency box for your LAP implemented safe routes to school projects. So when you have a shortfall, that gives us policy coverage to cover those particular ones. So we're not going to be doing any calls for that just yet. Second one is a program that we're going to tackle next year. So mid next year, we'll start talking about that as DOT starts thinking about the construction projects or resurfacing maintenance projects for fiscal 32. We'll talk about that one next year. But this year, over the next few weeks, early January, it starts, we're going to be standing up the off-state highway system local agency program. So this is implementing a means of implementing the local safety action plans and putting money where our mouth is as it relates to standalone safety specific projects. Again, each of those are going to have to be implemented through the LAP program. I think that's made very well clear within the guidelines. But with that, I'm just going to kind of summarize what changed, and I'll try to field any questions that you have. But again, those updated guidelines are found in your agenda packets in section 6. Again, we convened a working group, and I appreciate, again, everyone's time for doing that. The focus of the discussion really primarily focused around 3 areas: project eligibility and the desire to broaden that, comparative criteria, questions about how are we going to evaluate, because we do plan on taking a different approach than we do for some of our other projects. We want to, as requested through the long range planning process, you asked for more flexibility, you asked for more agility, we'll call it, within the prioritization and programming of projects. So we're offering that to the technical advisory committee, and some other considerations, some other topics came up, and I'll cover those here on this particular slide. The first one relating to eligibility, there was a desire to broaden that eligibility. Originally, it was if you're not in the current action plan and identified in a specific appendix, you are not eligible. That's been broadened, and we're supportive of that. it's based, and that will give us, I'll call it an evergreen product for the policy. So as you, as local municipalities update your action plans and your high injury networks, any project that's being proposed on a formal high injury network will be eligible as we do call for projects. So that opens up the playing field a little bit and make sure all jurisdictions have stake in the game. The second one was related to comparative criteria. We had a lot of discussion on that as it related to the working group. So we're adding a new criteria, keeping the original 5, the first 3 federal requirements, keeping the high injury network designation to delineate kind of the significance of the network, whether it's on a county and a city and and a regional network, just to kind of see things as they bubble up. But we're also adding areas of persistent poverty. That is a criteria that US DOT uses as part of the Safe Roads and Streets for All grant. So we're adding that one in there just for additional informational purposes. And the last item, the last change that was made to the guidelines and the discussion that the group had was about multi-jurisdictional partnership. What if one jurisdiction sponsors a project that benefits, a county sponsors a project that benefits multiple municipalities or vice versa? So we added that consideration in there. We're adding that to the application. So when the working group reconvenes, they can have as much information, context at their fingertips when they're making those evaluation and prioritization decisions. So very few changes as it relates to process, a little bit of a change as it relates to eligibility, and as it relates to that new question there, I guess, again, it just gives more context to make the case for project sponsors. Key dates, and these are really important because this is going to come fast after the new year to make sure that we can get these intake brought into our program so we can coordinate with DOT to get them programmed as soon as possible. But we are going to host, and we'll be getting a save the date out here soon for an informational webinar. It's not mandatory, but I certainly recommend you dial into that if all possible. We'll certainly record it so you'll have access to it after the day. But on January 5th, we're kind of have like a NOFO kind of type webinar. We'll talk through the guidelines, make sure your applicants can answer any questions that you may have. Then the following day, January 6th, we're going to open the call for projects using an ESRI survey 123 type application. So really simple. You'll fill in the blanks based on the applications that's found in the guidelines, and you'll be able to submit any supplemental documentation as required. We are requesting that all applications are submitted by the end of January 30th. So we have enough time to compile that, do kind of whatever objective evaluation my team needs to do so we can prepare documentation for our working group in the TAC to revisit that at their March date. I think we shopped around a date with that working group and we found a date that works for everyone. So I think we already locked that date in on March 6th. So after that evaluation, that's going to come back to the TAC for its blessing, as it typically would. And then it's going to go into our prioritized project list process. So again, that will allow us to flow right into April, May, and June, where we typically revise and make changes to our prioritized project list for federal funds. So with that, that's pretty much a key focus of the day. If you have any questions, I'll do my best to field them today. But Taylor and I are running kind of a co-point on this. So we're both here to help if you have questions in the interim. Thank you.
Alex, I had 2 questions. The deadline on the 30th is at 2 p.m. Was that specific, or could we have end of the day, or?
If that's the will of the group, some of that just so when we're in office, we can lock it in.
Okay.
But I do want to do a time specific.
I just wanted to make sure, because
yeah.
it's usually when you see a deadline, you're not thinking, okay, it's going to be early afternoon. So I just want to make sure everyone's aware of that.
Yeah, we can certainly do that. If there's a time that the group wants to kind of come to consensus on, call it 5 o'clock. All right. Well, business close is different for everybody. True. But if we want to give a time, we'll just update that accordingly. And we can make that certain change if there's consensus amongst the TAC today.
I can't remember when we spoke, the persistent poverty, is that related to or the same as the opportunity zones?
Different?
They're close though, right? They almost, because a lot of the grants I'm seeing and a lot of things are coming in, they're talking about the opportunity zones now. So I wasn't sure if we want to bring that in with it.
That's a different criteria, a different we'll call it a different data set. It might be pulling on some of the same kind of initial source data, but the polygons and the structure of that are a little bit different. The areas of persistent poverty is based on the American Community Survey, looking back 10 years of persistent poverty, kind of recurring persistent poverty. And our recommendation, including that, was just to be consistent with the federal discretionary grant process. But again, all of the criteria that are listed in there are for your information. So when that group reconvenes, they can have all this information available to them. It's not prescriptive as some of our other prioritization is, and that's based on the feedback that we received, that you didn't want another data model telling you which safety project's next. We're going to have that information at your hands, and then you as technical advisors can talk about those criteria, but also other considerations that need to be vetted as we're talking about the next few years of safety programming.
Any other questions for Alex? Nope.
5 p.m. on January 30th. Sound good for everybody? All right, sounds good. With that, we will revise that. We are going to get those guidelines out to you here in the next couple of weeks. But again, we be on the lookout for that informational webinar meeting. We'll walk through the entire guidelines, make sure we field any questions before the call to projects opens up. And I do see Mr. Cherry. Eastern Standard? Absolutely. It's the only time I operate in here in Orlando. So.
Thank you, Alex.
Absolutely.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. Quick question on the who may apply. It's lab certified or or local governments who are committing to be lab certified by June 2030. Are there any options for smaller jurisdictions that aren't lab certified or couldn't fall under a county's lab certification?
Alex, correct me if I'm wrong. I do not believe you need to be lab certified to be able to apply for this, because for lab certification, how DOT is doing it is project specific. So you couldn't be lab certified for a project in 2032 today. So it's just, you have to become lab certified to get the agreement once the project starts going through. So it's years down the road. Correct?
If you'd like to, from a smaller municipality's perspective, if there is interest and a willingness from a county to be the implementing agency, that coordination just needs to take place in advance. And as long as we have that confirmation, we can certainly do that. That is an eligible means of leveraging the LAP program. But that's a conversation for you and Brian to have offline.
All right. Any other questions? Yeah. Christina?
I know it's a little bit off topic, but you mentioned the Safe Streets for All and we're talking about grants. Is there an opportunity? Is it anybody know an update on that award?
So our award, the one that Metro Plan Orlando, I know some of our municipal partners are also, we were supposed to have received a fully executed grant agreement. And then, obviously the federal government shut down for 30 some odd days, which kind of pushed back our process. We had submitted Metro Plan Orlando's regional supplemental planning grant draft. We received comments. We responded to those comments, and we were given a timeline before the shutdown. So we're hoping by end of year, just based on the shutdown, kind of getting things back up and running. But yeah, that's something that Adriana and I actually talked about just earlier this week, about wanting to reach back out to our point of contact with FHWA to see what we need to do to get that one off the ground. I'm not sure if Kelly or any of our other municipalities who are direct recipients themselves have heard anything, but I think we're all pretty much in that same boat of waiting, and the shutdown certainly didn't help that timeline.
Yeah, we haven't heard anything. We did submit ours for signature, but we just did it, so we're waiting for them to send it back. However, I did hear, and I don't know if anybody else has heard this, I heard from a consultant that by law, the new applications they're supposed to announce by end of the year. Has anybody heard that? I haven't confirmed that. So
we'll add that to our check-in with our federal partners.
Yeah, and we haven't heard anything from our application. They were told us December, January before the shutdown. So now I think February, March, probably at best. Like, I think we just heard back about FTA's grants that were supposed to be released in October. They were just recently got it. So everything's delayed.
Good news is we overcome the hurdles as it relates to eligibility. I know some people had concerns that some of the grants were going to kind of evaporate based on circumstance, and it appears that we'll proceed. We just need to be a little more patient on the delivery side.
We did have a communication with FHWA this week on ours. They've updated the terms and conditions again, so be ready for a little bit of delay in that as well.
Anyone else? No. Thank you, Alex.
And if I may, shameless plug, I mentioned it at TAC or TISMO earlier this morning. We are hiring a senior planner role to work on the transportation improvement program as well as within our long range planning team. So if you know anyone, please spread the good word. I'd appreciate that. Thanks.
Thanks, Alex. All right, we'll move on to the general information. There are several items in the general information portion of your agenda packet, which is found in section 7. There's the next slide. We'll go to upcoming meetings of interest. Our next TAC meeting will be held in person on Friday, January 23rd, 2026. The next Metro Plan Orlando board meeting is held in person on Wednesday, December 10th at 9 a.m. A full list of the meetings are on the agenda. And now we'll move on to member comments and other business. I wanted to just say this will be my last meeting as chair for TAC, and I've been honored to serve for you all, and you're not getting away from me. I'm going to be on TISMO, and I'm still staying with TAC, so you'll see me around. And another shameless plug, we have a transportation coordinator position, if anyone wants to be my deputy, or know anyone. Is there any other comments or business? Kelly?
So if memory serves, I've represented Castleberry on Metro Plan committees for 18 years, but I am finally planning, if all goes well, I am passing the torch in 2026. So Keena Henry will become the primary for both TAC and TISMO. So you should not see me that often at Metro Plan in 2026. So I want to take the opportunity. Metro Plan has meant a lot to me professionally and personally. In addition to all the money that's flowed through Metro Plan to benefit Castleberry, when I first started working for Castleberry, I knew very little about transportation. And frankly, almost everything that I've learned is either directly or indirectly through my connection with Metro Plan. So I appreciate all the staff at Metro Plan who have helped us over the years.
Thank you, Kelly. You will be missed in these meetings, but please make presentations for us so we can at least get some. Yeah. We can nix that, right, Alex? We can make sure that Keena, there's some paperwork issue. Oh, thank you, Kelly.
Just need a lot more people to move to Castleberry, and then you can have 2 seats.
Members of the public wish to comment and are joining us virtually, please use the raised hand function and you will be recognized, or dial *9 on your phone keypad. We'll send you a prompt to unmute your mic. Do we have anyone joining us virtually who would like to make a comment?
No hands raised.
Do we have any members of the public attending in person that wish to make a public comment?
None received.
Were there any written comments that were submitted before the meeting?
None were received.
With that and no other comments, at 11:45, the meeting is adjourned.
Last gavel.